Paper from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and it's titled A Primer on Bitcoin Cross-Border Flows, Measurement, and Drivers. So this is a research paper from the International Monetary Fund where they talk about how anyone in the world, how people in the world based on various countries are using Bitcoin for cross-border transfers, meaning they're using Bitcoin instead of dollars. They're not sending dollars or fiat currency over traditional banking rails. They're using Bitcoin. And of course, it's happening much more in the developing world than it is in the US and in the developed world in the Western world. And this is, remember, kind of one of the reasons why Bitcoin was created, to give everyone in the world the opportunity to hold value, but also to transact, to move money back and forth. And it's really important for those in places where their fiat currency is being tremendously devalued. And I'm talking like 50 to 100% inflation per year. One, they're utilizing it for cross-border payments. They're utilizing it to hold on to value, and they're utilizing it for cross-border payments because a lot of times either their government or their banks won't even allow them to transfer money. And again, this is kind of why Bitcoin was created from the beginning, because we now have the technology to be able to send something of value from me to you, regardless of where you are in the world, for a very low fee. The implications this has, it means that the rest of the world sees a need for this technology. They're not going, we want Bitcoin because we're going to invest a whole bunch of our money and we think it's going to go up 100x. They're going, we need Bitcoin because our currency is being devalued and we need something that's going to maintain its value, and we need to be able to send it where we want, when we want, without having to ask permission from our banks or our government. That is happening elsewhere in the world. Now, what does that mean overall? It partially means that the use case is there for anyone in the US, whether you're a financial advisor or someone in finance or anyone who's skeptical about the need for Bitcoin. Here is the need for Bitcoin. Here's the International Monetary Fund saying we've done the research, and elsewhere in the world outside the US there is a need. The fact that we are all so interconnected means that some of that money eventually in Bitcoin will be flowing to the US, and some from the US will be flowing out to those other countries. Bitcoin is global. It's the same asset no matter where you are in the world. So it's not going to exist kind of in a vacuum outside the US, nor is it going to exist in a vacuum in the US, within ETFs or something. What it also says to me, there's going to be continued value for mining Bitcoin for those transactions fees, and there's going to be a continued demand for Bitcoin. And as we've just recently seen, the halving, we're going to have less new supply of Bitcoin every day now for the next 4 years, and increased demand, of course, from the ETFs, increased demand from institutions. Now we're seeing this use case, this increased demand from those elsewhere in the world to hold on to Bitcoin, maintain value, but also to utilize it for cross-border payments, because again, they can't trust their governments, they can't trust their banks, or it just takes too long, or the fees are too high. So that is a demand for Bitcoin that is going to be likely reflected in the price because we have this verifiably scarce supply. That is going to be reflected. It tells us also there is a need for other blockchains potentially. There's a need potentially for more stable coins for cross-border payments that don't necessarily go through a bank. There is going to be a need for this, and we've said from the beginning. In the US, it's a fun to have, it's a nice to have. In other parts of the world, it is a need to have. And this is a technology and this is a financial asset that is necessary in other parts of the world outside of the US and outside of the West. It's going to trickle in here as we have less and less trust of our governments and our banks, as we're seeing in the US and Canada and other Western democracies, but we're going to see it more and more elsewhere in the world. And again, since we're so interconnected financially through the internet, through connectivity, through social media, through the ability to chat with each other, through products and services that move everywhere in the world, there's going to be a need for those of us in the US to transact via Bitcoin or via blockchain-based rails with others in the world that don't want to utilize the bank rails. They're speaking with their wallets, they're voting with their wallets, and now the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and their research is telling us so.